My name is Rachel Pierce. I'm 35 years old, and my life is a spreadsheet. Each cell is a decision, calculated and cross-referenced, designed to mitigate risk. I am an operations manager for a global logistics firm, a job that rewards my obsession with order. I orchestrate the movement of thousands of tons of cargo across oceans and continents. I speak in timelines, in budgets, in contingencies. My colleagues joke that my blood type is Excel positive. They're not entirely wrong. Stability is my love language, a quiet grammar of predictability in a world of chaos. Perhaps that's why my family treats me like an extended warranty. They only call when something is broken. The last Sunday dinner I attended was meant to be peaceful. It never is. The air in my mother's house, always meticulously clean, was thick with the scent of a slow braising pot roast and the low, masculine drone of a football game on mute. It smelled like nostalgia. It smelled like a carefully set trap. My father, a man who had perfected the art of strategic invisibility, was a fixed silhouette on the couch, his focus feigned an inch deep on the silent, warring figures on the screen. He hadn't made an active decision in 20 years, preferring to be a silent co-signer on the whims of my mother and sister. My mother, a maestro of domestic stagecraft, conducted the scene from the kitchen, her movements a ballet of practiced martyrdom. The front door opened with a theatrical gust of expensive perfume. My younger sister, Jenna, 5 years my junior and a lifetime apart in temperament, breezed in 20 minutes late. She was a vision in a cream-colored cashmere sweater that likely cost more than my entire utility bill for the month. Effortless was her brand. She dropped a designer tote bag onto the gleaming hardwood floor with a soft, dismissive thud. Is there any sparkling water with fresh lemon or just flat? She asked the room at large, her tone that of a guest at a slightly disappointing wellness retreat. I was in the corner of the kitchen, the designated parsley chopper, a role I'd held since I was tall enough to safely wield a knife. The rhythmic thump, thump, thump of the blade against the worn wooden board was a small, steady metronome against the rising tide of my irritation. The sink's in the same postcode it was last week, I said without looking up. The tap water here is potable. Jenna wrinkled her perfect nose, a flawless echo of the expression she'd worn at age 10 when I'd offered her half of my carefully saved Halloween candy after she'd inhaled her own in a single sugar-fueled night. My mother, her back to us, didn't miss a beat. Rachel, be kind. Your sister has had a terribly stressful week. Jenna let out a long, performative sigh, arranging herself elegantly on a dining chair. You have no idea, Rach. My boss is just radiating this deeply negative, uninspirational energy. It's impossible to foster your creativity in such a suppressive environment. I forced a thin, brittle smile and continued my chopping. Creative. That was the shimmering, gilded word my mother had always used to excuse Jenna's spectacular lack of discipline. Jenna was creative. I was careful. Jenna was a dreamer. I was dependable. One word conjured images of starlight and untamed artistry. The other sounded like beige wallpaper and sensible shoes. As I scraped the finely minced greens into a small ceramic bowl, my Aunt Rose, my mother's sister and chief echo chamber, leaned across the table. Her eyes, small and sharp, missed nothing. So, Rachel, still renting that tiny little apartment of yours? A woman of 35. You'd think you'd want to put down some roots. The clock's ticking, sweetheart. I'm working on it, I recited, the automatic, pre-approved response for any inquiry into my personal life. My mother's wooden spoon tapped the side of a gleaming copper pot, a sharp, scolding punctuation mark. She's being careful, Mom announced with a bizarre sort of pride, as if fiscal prudence were a charming but ultimately tragic flaw. Rachel likes things to be predictable. She's good with that. She paused, then added a soft, dismissive laugh that she probably thought sounded affectionate. Besides, Rachel's comfortable. She's not a risk-taker like Jenna. Jenna's meant for more. The words landed not like a blow, but like tiny shards of ice injected directly into my veins. It was the old, familiar ache that lived permanently behind my ribs. The same sting that started when I was 12, scrubbing the neighbor's floors for a $10 bill to save for a school trip, while Jenna was gifted an art set for simply expressing herself. We grew up in the same house, but under entirely different atmospheric pressures. Jenna was praised for the forecast. I was responsible for building the ark. Jenna, meanwhile, offered a beatific smile, not showing her teeth, her chin propped delicately in her hand like a Renaissance portrait of a misunderstood muse. "I'm on a journey of self-discovery," she said, her voice airy and profound. "It's about aligning with my truth." "Rachel," my dad's voice suddenly boomed from the couch, startling me. He hadn't taken his eyes off the screen. "The pizza should be here soon for the kids. Grab the bill when it comes, will you? Think I left my wallet in the car." The lie was so worn, so threadbare. It was almost comforting. I almost laughed. It wasn't a question. It was a line item in the budget of my life. "Funny," I said, my voice light with a deeply buried sarcasm they'd never acknowledge. "I think I left my wallet in the glove box of my other life, the one where I'm not the family ATM." They all chuckled, a warm, familial sound. Of course they did. It was funny because it was expected. It was funny because my role as the financial backstop was as fixed and reliable as the North Star, and just as cold and distant. Later, as the evening bled into a haze of Merlot and mounting anxiety, I decided to test the waters of my own escape. I found Mom alone in the living room, swirling her second glass of wine with an air of regal contentment. "I'm thinking about a temporary relocation," I began, choosing my words with the precision of a bomb disposal expert. "There's a significant project at work, a promotion actually. They want me to lead the new logistics hub in Dublin, 6 months, maybe a year." She waved her hand airily, the dark red wine sloshing dangerously close to the rim of her glass. "Oh, honey, that's a lovely little fantasy, but it's completely unrealistic. You can't possibly go now. Your sister needs you." The air in the room grew thin. "What does that mean? She needs me." Her smile became a thin, taut line. It was her "don't be difficult, Rachel" smile, a weapon she'd honed to perfection over 3 decades. "You know how your sister is. She's a sensitive soul. She just needs a bit of a runway to finally take off. You've always been her safety net." As if summoned by a dark incantation, Jenna appeared in the doorway from the hall. She paused to check her reflection in the black, lifeless screen of the oversized television, patting a stray strand of blonde hair into place. "You'll understand when you learn to let go a little, Rach," she said softly, her voice dripping with the faux wisdom of 1,000 inspirational Instagram quotes. "It's not all about spreadsheets and saving, it's about being present." Something shifted deep in my chest. It wasn't the hot flash of anger, not yet. It was a heavy, cold recognition, like a geological sample of my own life. The familiar, invisible weight of being the designated grown-up. That was the unspoken contract I had apparently signed at birth. Jenna dreams, I cover the overdraft fees. Jenna finds herself. I find my wallet. That night, driving home on the slick, rain-swept highway, the cool night air stinging my cheeks through the cracked window, my phone buzzed. It was Mike, my boyfriend, a geologist currently on a 6-month contract in the Atacama Desert in Chile. His physical distance was both a constant, low-grade ache and my only genuine reprieve. "Mike, survived Sunday dinner with the Royals?" "Me, barely. The crown is heavy tonight." "Mike, let me guess. New crisis requiring funding from the Bank of Rachel?" "Me, you could say that. Apparently I'm the safety net for my sister's runway. I'm not a person, I'm an infrastructure project." He sent a laughing emoji, then a more serious message appeared, the 3 dots blinking for a long moment before it formed. "Mike, you know you can say no, right? The word exists. You could just stop." "Me, if I stop, the guilt tax doubles. Then they add on interest." He replied with a single red heart emoji. It was his quiet, unassuming way of saying, "I see you." And in my world, being seen was the rarest of all commodities. Back in my quiet, meticulously organized apartment, my sanctuary, I kicked off my shoes and opened a hidden notes app on my phone. The file was blandly named Household Rebates. It was a secret ledger of my own slow-motion bankruptcy, a diary written in dollars and cents. $2,590, family phone plan, annual cost for 4 lines on my account. $150, car insurance add-on, Jenna's temporary edition, now on its 28th month. $412, emergency vet bill. Jenna's French bulldog, Daisy, ate a leather sandal. $4,800, loan. Jenna's non-refundable deposit for a Bali yoga retreat she bailed on. The list went on for pages, a scroll of 1,000 tiny surrenders. Some entries had a small, sad star beside them. Debts I knew were just gifts I was too proud to name as such. At first, the list had been a practical tool to track what I was owed. Now it was a chronicle of my own complicity. Every number was a testament to how far I would contort myself to maintain a peace that only I seemed to be paying for. My mother's favorite refrain always echoed in my head. Family isn't a balance sheet, Rachel. It all evens out in the end. But it didn't. The deficit was entirely mine. The asks just got more sophisticated, wrapped in the pretty cellophane of flattery. Could you just put it on your card for now? You're so organized. It's too confusing for me. Jenna will absolutely pay you back next month. Next month was a mythical, glimmering place, like El Dorado or a functional budget for my sister. My thoughts drifted, as they often did in these quiet, lonely moments, to my grandmother, Eleanor Vance. She'd passed away 6 short months ago, leaving a void that felt more like a missing structural support. She was my mother's mother, but they were cut from entirely different quarries. Eleanor was granite. My mother was sandstone, beautiful but porous, easily worn away by the endless tides of other people's wants and needs. Grandma Eleanor used to watch our family dynamic with her sharp, discerning blue eyes, the same color as the summer sky after a storm. "Don't you ever let them turn you into the mule, Rachel," she'd told me once, her formidable, arthritis-knotted hands smelling of soil from her beloved rose garden. There's a vast difference between offering a helping hand and being forced into a harness. Her will, according to my mother, was still tangled in some minor probate issue with an out-of-state property. My mother speculated the bulk of Eleanor's modest estate would go to a bird sanctuary she'd volunteered at. She always did love those noisy, demanding blue jays more than people, Mom had said with a laugh that didn't quite conceal the sting of a lifetime of perceived neglect. Around my neck, cool against my skin, was the last gift my grandmother had given me. A heavy, unadorned silver locket. It didn't open. She had it soldered shut. "Everything you need to remember is already inside you," she'd said. "This is just to remind you that it has weight." I stared at the slow, hypnotic circles of my ceiling fan, feeling a kinship with its pointless spinning. I was so profoundly tired of spinning in place. Some nights I'd allow myself the treacherous luxury of imagining it. A life where my phone was a tool for connection, not a trigger for Pavlovian anxiety. A life where my savings account grew instead of acting as a slush fund for someone else's whims. The shame would always follow, hot on the heels of the fantasy. Good daughters don't dream of escape. Good sisters don't count the cost. Before turning off the lamp, I scrolled to the bottom of my secret ledger and added a new, hypothetical line item. Parental unit utilities. Cancel automatic payment transfer. I didn't do it. Not yet. But typing the words felt like loading a single gleaming bullet into a revolver. It was a whisper to myself in the suffocating dark. I could if I wanted to. My phone buzzed one last time on the nightstand. A final assault. It was a picture from Mom, sent to the family group chat. It showed Jenna and her new boyfriend, Caleb, at a candlelit restaurant I knew I couldn't afford. Jenna's hand was on his cheek, her nails immaculate, her smile radiant and unburdened. They looked free. They looked expensive. The caption read, "Our future power couple." So proud of their vision. I didn't envy her life. Not really. I envied her blissful, staggering, profound lack of accountability. I envied her permission to live it without owing anyone a damn thing. I fell asleep to the quiet, solitary hum of my own refrigerator, a sound I alone paid for, and I realized something that would chase me for the months to come. I used to think that real love meant being needed. Now I was starting to suspect, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that it just meant being used. 2 weeks later, I was back in the lion's den, an unwilling guest at my own execution. The house smelled of rosemary again, a scent I was beginning to associate with impending doom. Jenna was already there, barefoot and cross-legged on the couch like a bohemian queen, her new boyfriend, Caleb, sitting beside her. He was one of those effortlessly confident, handsome men who wore artfully distressed t-shirts and unironically used the word vibe as a noun, verb, and adjective. My mother was already hopelessly smitten. "Isn't he just a doll?" she'd whispered to me in the kitchen as I unpacked the bottle of wine I'd brought. "So incredibly ambitious. And he calls me ma'am. A true gentleman." I glanced at the half-finished imported craft beer he'd abandoned on her spotless granite countertop without a coaster. "Utterly charming," I'd said, my voice flatter than I intended. Dinner was a master class in performative familial bliss until Jenna, with the timing of a seasoned actress, placed her fork down with a delicate ringing chime against her plate. "I have an announcement," she declared. The table fell silent. "I quit my job today." The quiet was broken only by my father noisily clearing his throat. I looked up from my plate of pot roast, my own fork hovering midair. "You did what?" Jenna shrugged, a delicate, practiced lift of her cashmere-clad shoulders. The corporate environment was toxic. It was stifling my spirit, crushing my authentic self. I'm making the brave choice to prioritize my mental and spiritual wellness. My dad, the same man who had once suggested I should power through a bout of pneumonia because Q4 deadlines were looming, nodded with an expression of grave paternal approval. "I'm proud of you for knowing your limits, honey. It takes courage to do that." I nearly choked on a piece of carrot. I had to take a long sip of water to keep from laughing out loud. Jenna smiled serenely, looking as if she'd just achieved enlightenment rather than voluntary unemployment. "I'm going to take a few months to recalibrate, to really listen to what the universe is telling me. Caleb is being absolutely, incredibly supportive." Caleb, the gentleman visionary, raised his water glass in a toast. "She's a true artist of life. The universe has a grand plan for her. You can't put a timeline on genius." I didn't say it, but I thought it with the force of a tectonic event. The universe doesn't pay rent, you vapid parasite. After dinner, as I was loading the dishwasher, my permanent unpaid post-meal role, my mother cornered me, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. "Sweetheart, you've always been so level-headed, so good with the practical side of things. Now that Jenna is taking this brave sabbatical, things will obviously be a little tight for her." "Mom, she quit a perfectly good job. On purpose. She has no savings, I know for a fact. She needs to find her true passion. It was eating away at her soul. Caleb is helping her develop a new concept, something creative." "What kind of something?" I asked, bracing myself. She smiled vaguely, as if the details were bothersome, earthly trifles. "A creative agency, I think. Or a brand consultancy. An experience hub. You know how these brilliant young people are." No, I didn't. Because when I started a project, I had a business plan, a budget, and a risk assessment matrix. I could feel the familiar hot pulse of anger, a low thrum beneath my skin. "Mom, I already cover half the household bills. The phone plan, the car insurance, Dad's golf club membership." "Oh, Rachel," she interrupted, waving her hand dismissively as if shooing a fly. "Those are just little incidental things. Family helping family." "Little things that add up to the cost of a second mortgage," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Her smile froze on her face. The manufactured warmth evaporated, leaving behind something hard and cold. "You've changed lately, Rachel. You've become so transactional. so focused on money. The accusation hung in the air between us, acrid and suffocating. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pull up the secret spreadsheet on my phone and shove it in her face, to show her the transaction history of my love, itemized and dated. Instead, I unclenched my jaw and forced myself to breathe. "No," I said softly, the words tasting like metal. "I'm just finally sending an invoice for services rendered." That night, lying in bed and staring at the dark ceiling, I mentally tallied the numbers from my secret ledger. The total had quietly, insidiously crept past $25,000. That was a down payment on a home. A new car, paid in full. A year of freedom, traveling the world, my own runway. Instead, I had purchased my family's comfort and my own indentured servitude, and they were spending my life as if it were an infinite resource. The next morning, as if my dark thoughts had summoned her, my phone rang. It was Jenna, her voice syrupy sweet. "Hey, sis, so you are not going to believe the most perfect little space Caleb and I found in the Arts District. It's absolutely perfect for our new business idea." "A business idea you've had for 12 hours?" I said, my voice flat with exhaustion. "It's a creative studio and content incubator. Super high vibe, very aligned with our brand ethos. Anyway, the point is, we need to get the lease application approved, but the landlord is being a total boomer about it and asking for a co-signer. Someone with, a stable income and proven credit history." The floor seemed to fall out from under me. A cold, familiar dread washed over me, chilling the coffee in my hand. "Jenna, no." She giggled, a light, airy sound that made me want to smash the phone against the wall. "Oh, relax. It's not like we're asking you for money. God. It's just your name. It's a formality." I rubbed my tired eyes, the spot between them aching with a familiar tension headache. "My name is money, Jenna. My name is my credit score. It's my reliability. It's the only real asset I have left that you haven't managed to spend." She went quiet. The sunny warmth in her voice instantly iced over, turning sharp and brittle. "You don't believe in me. You never have. You're just like them." There it was, the guilt grenade, pin-pulled, tossed casually into my lap. "Jenna, I have believed in you with my actual hard-earned money more times than you have believed in yourself. I paid for the photography course you abandoned, the baking internship you slept through, the yoga certification you never completed. I have a digital folder of receipts that proves my belief, to the tune of thousands of dollars." "Wow," she said, her voice dripping with cold, theatrical fury. "You really are keeping score. You sound just like Mom when she's disappointed in me." The line went dead. I stared at the black, silent screen, my heart pounding a frantic, panicked rhythm against my ribs. The percussive sound in my ears was like a clock, counting down to an explosion I had spent my entire adult life trying to prevent. That night, over a crackling, delayed video call, I told Mike everything. Every number, every veiled demand, every casual act of emotional extortion disguised as a term of endearment. He listened without interrupting, his face a small, pixelated image of concern thousands of miles away. When I was finished, my voice raw, his was calm and clear. "Rachel, they're not asking for help. They're demanding a human sacrifice. This isn't about love, it's about control. It's always been about control." "It's not that simple," I whispered, the old ingrained excuses rising up out of sheer habit. "It is that simple," he said, his voice firm. "You have spent your entire life paying for permission to be loved by them. Have you ever considered what might happen if you just stopped paying?" I hated him for it. I hated him because I knew, with a terrifying, gut-wrenching certainty, that he was right. A few days later, a crisp, imposing letter arrived in my mailbox. The paper was thick and cream-colored, the kind used for pronouncements. The return address was a prestigious law firm downtown I didn't recognize. Abernathy, Cole, and Finch. Below it, in smaller type, the estate of Eleanor Vance. My breath caught in my throat. My mother called that very evening, her voice soft and strangely urgent. "Sweetheart, can you come by the house tomorrow? We need to have a proper family talk. It's about Jenna's future. It's very important." I knew that tone. It was the, "We are about to ask for your arm, but we'll start by complimenting your lovely fingernails" tone. I almost said no. But the lawyer's letter sat on my kitchen counter, a silent, inscrutable question mark. And the guilt, that old, loyal dog, trotted to my side, rested its heavy head on my knee, and looked up at me with sad, pleading eyes. As I hung up the phone, my work email pinged with an automated notification. Subject: Decision required. Offer confirmation. Dublin project lead. My cursor hovered over the word, accept. For a single crystalline moment, I allowed myself to see it, the life that was waiting on the other side of that click. A moody, gray Irish sky reflected in the dark water of the River Liffey. An apartment where the only footsteps were my own. A silence I didn't have to purchase with my own peace of mind. Then, as if on a timer, my phone buzzed with a text message from Jenna. "Jenna, hey, can you try and come a little early TMRW? Caleb wants to walk you through the full business plan and the 5-year growth projections for the studio. It's going to blow your mind." I looked at the two messages glowing on my separate screens. One was a key. The other was a new, more sophisticated lock for my cage. And in that moment, I realized something quietly, profoundly terrifying. Every single time I said yes to them, I was saying no to myself. And I was running out of self to give away. Tomorrow, I had a feeling, I would find out just how deep their entitlement ran, and just how much of me they were willing to take.